In 2001, we watched in horror as the United States convinced many Westerners that everyone in the Middle East was a terrorist. What ensued was a horrific mass murdering and destructive campaign that killed millions and caused indescribable destruction and suffering. Though they have more blood on their hands than any prisoner on earth, and though they lied relentlessly to manufacture consent, the war's architects were not punished, and many of them went on to positions of power and influence. Joe Biden, who championed the unprovoked devastation of my country, Iraq, was elected president of the United States. Unsurprisingly, he's once again telling lies to placate the masses as the United States funds a genocidal war on 2.3 million people using almost identical propaganda. But this time it's even more ridiculous, trying to make out like Palestinians in Gaza are somehow the aggressors when Zionist terrorists push them off their lands and imprison them in a concentration camp. For 16 years, Israel has tortured Gaza, destroying their ability to sustain themselves in every way, from bombing their water infrastructure to preventing them from fishing in their own ocean. Even before Israel did the barbaric act of cutting off all food, water, and power to Gaza, they were already drip-feeding their prisoners less food and water than is recommended, and giving them 4 hours of electricity a day. They've been torturing Palestinians for a long time. So why are so many people still falling for it? Even as Israeli and US officials openly call for the massacre of Palestinians. Even as 3,000 children are murdered and half of Gaza's homes are turned to rubble. The answer lies in hundreds of years of white supremacist colonial witchcraft, which has cast indigenous people as inferior and therefore in need of domination. So inferior, in fact, that colonizers argue their God wants them to murder and pillage these people. These narratives haven't changed much at all, with Israeli officials calling Palestinians animals and saying they're fulfilling God's prophecy by slaughtering thousands. They're also relying on a specific brand of racism called Orientalism. This term was coined by Edward Said, who showed how since the 1700s, journalists, fiction writers, and scholars painted our people as stagnant, inferior, and degenerate in order to justify their crimes against us. And for 75 years, Israel has helped perpetuate this negative view of Arabs so the world doesn't question why it continues to abuse them. No doubt, both helping to enable the West's war of terror, but also benefiting from the re-establishment of Arab inferiority that occurred during that time. And now they're explicitly arguing that if the US was allowed to kill millions of people back then for its aspirations, they should be able to as well. In this way, every war justifies another war. But this one is a little harder to sell. The majority of the world is awake to what Israel has done to Palestinians for over 75 years, and the rest are quickly catching on. Meanwhile, all of us are getting live coverage of Israel's unspeakably cruel, genocidal campaign that is quickly turning Gaza into a graveyard. Soon the people will come to recognize that the so-called rules-based order is one of terror, bloodshed, and tyranny for anyone that gets in the way of the empire.